Good evening. Today we are sitting down with someone whose impact on the community spanned more than 2 decades. Maggie St Jean, a trilingual leader, healthcare professional, and dedicated advocate for service. Since the early 2000s, Maggie has been at the forefront of community development, helping to establish over 100 nonprofit organizations and support the creation of multiple churches. Her approach is deeply personal because, as she believes, no two communities and no two challenges are ever the same. Before fully stepping into her role as a community leader, Maggie spent 20 years in the nursing field, often working multiple jobs while continuing to serve others beyond her professions. Maggie often said that community service chose her, and for more than 25 years, she has embraced that calling, following the footsteps of her parents and dedicating her life to uplifting others. She is the founder of the Daily Bread Distribution Center, an organization that has become a lifeline for countless families. Under her leadership, it has grown into a trusted source of support, providing not just food, but hope, dignity, and opportunity. From feeding over 1,000 families during major holiday drives to mentoring and empowering individuals to education and outreach, her work continues to transform lives across the community. Driven by a vision to empower people through knowledge while offering support during life's most difficult moments, Maggie St. Jean has become a pillar of strength and a voice for those who are often unheard. Maggie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, Maggie, listen, hey, I know a lot of people know you. However, I'm sure there's some people in the community who would like to know more about you since now you integrate yourself to the local politics. So talk to my audience, tell them who you are, and then after that we'll start talking more about what you got in your books for us.
That sounds good. As you said, my name is Maggie,
Mhm.
and I've been serving the community mainly all of my life. From the time that I came here to the US at the age of 8, I found my parents serving the community, whether it's my father knocking on doors, delivering groceries, or assisting someone with translation, or picking someone up from work, going all the way to Disney, bringing them home and ministering to them, or going to the bus stop just to speak to someone, to get to know them better, and to
Mhm.
offer assistance. We were always with him. We didn't have a choice, right? So it was always an honor to see how people react, when they see hope, when they see that someone would offer them hope. So with that, I kind of embraced it, in my future life, and to this point where now I find pleasure in bringing hope to people, not false hope, but hope that can actually be achievable and help them in their whatever they're going through at that point.
Okay. Well, you've been in the community for a while, Maggie, and you've been doing an outstanding job. What specifically motivates you to enter politics, and why now?
Yeah, that's a good question. The real reason is that I'm tired of politicians.
Hmm.
I am not a politician. And from what I understand, from what I'm seeing, I hope that I never become one. I'm a servant of the community and I deliver on my promises. I don't make vain promises and not deliver. For the past 26 years, past March, have made us 26 years of service. And for the past 26 years, I've seen these politicians make promises. I've heard them make promises. I've encountered some promises myself that were never delivered, right? And we have a community that suffers because of the lack of deliverance on these promises. So I said, why not? And District 7, I live here. And because I live here, I hear the stories. I hear the trauma that people go through. Everybody's story is different, but everybody's story is personal, right?
Hmm.
So I hear their stories. And I feel like I would be just as guilty as those that makes those promises and don't deliver if I didn't throw my hat in the ring. So that's why I'm running.
Okay. Now, District 7 is a new district. Before we go farther along, what are the cities that are inside District 7?
So District 7 covers Pine Hills, Orla Vista, Maitland, Mercy Drive, College Park,
Hmm.
and Eatonville.
So, what do you believe is the biggest issue District 7 is facing right now?
Oh, housing.
Housing.
Housing and education.
Okay. So,
Housing and education.
okay, elaborate for us. What do you mean by housing? So, what is it? Housing affordability? What issue are they having?
Housing affordability, of course.
Hmm.
When you look at housing, they keep going up, but the wages aren't going up. So you have more people becoming homeless because they can't afford their houses, they can't afford their rents. So housing affordability is a big issue right now in District 7.
So, what's your plan to fix that?
So my plan is to incentivize developers to build low-income housing buildings for our community. Also to partner with different organizations and churches to help make that happen. As far as empty buildings are concerned, right now there's so many
Hmm.
empty buildings in District 7. Those can be used for housing. I want to help to strengthen tenant protections and fair lease enforcement because again, even for me, I'm a renter at where I'm at, not my house, but my office, they
Hmm.
keep increasing the rent. So there's got to be something that can be done to stop that from happening. Because again, wages aren't going up, but rents are increasing. I want to help with down payment assistant classes, which we do already, right? But informing the people as to what's available, so that they can benefit, bring some new grants in to help people benefit from those grants, to help them to purchase their houses. It is a crucial time right now, and we know that the biggest
Hmm.
investment that someone can make is housing. Right, so we want to help people to become independent, where they own their own and not having to pay rent, but paying a mortgage. It's an investment, not just throwing money away on a monthly basis.
Now, you also mentioning education. As far as education, what area that need to be improved, and then what are you doing? What are you going to do to fix it?
Mhm. In District 7, and actually in Orange County, they're closing down 8 schools. So
Oh.
the 8 schools that they're closing down, three of them fall in District 7. Three of them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and again, we have 8 districts. They're closing down 8 schools, three of them in District 7. When you look at District 7, it's mainly Black,
Mm-hmm.
population. So I'm looking at what is happening or what is being planned for D7, whereas you're going to have a lot of youngsters that are uneducated because they're shutting down the schools. So when they shut down the schools, you're looking at an AI generation that is uneducated but depend only on AI to survive. That is not safe.
Hmm.
That
Now,
is not safe. So what I would like to do
mm-hmm.
is, again, these churches, they can open their doors. I want to partner with these churches to open their doors where they have smaller classes. We can implement a system where they can get paid to teach these students so that they don't become the future generation of just AI. They need to be educated. All of this, Johnny,
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry,
No, no, you
all
can.
of this that we're talking about, as far as politics is concerned, without education, you have no future. You have no politicians. You have absolutely nothing. Education is the foundation of our country, or it's supposed to be the foundation of our country. So when you remove education by shutting down these schools, what are you offering the next generation?
Now, that aspect of education, I would think, well, maybe I'm wrong, that will be more involved, uh, like involving the board of education who's over here, right? We have one in downtown. So what are they doing? And what's the plan? So closing 8 schools, we're gonna focus on the one in your district. 3 of them is from your district, are from your district. So the question is, when those 3 schools are closed, what's the plan? Where do what do we do with those kids?
That's the thing. Here is their solution. So what I see is that they create a problem
Mm-hmm.
and claim to bring
A
the
solution.
solution.
So what's the solution?
Right. The solution is not what they're doing.
So what they say, what
So
do they promise they're gonna do?
what they're doing is they're asking parents to educate their children,
Hold
right?
up,
And
hold
they're
up, hold
paying
up, hold
them
up,
nine.
Maggie. I want to understand. So they want to close the school, but they're asking the parents to homeschool the kids.
Right.
Okay.
So when the parent has a job, how are they going to homeschool their children? And when you think about, especially for the Caribbean culture,
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of them, I won't say all, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them are uneducated. So you're looking at a second grader who has more education than their parents or their grandparents. How is that parent going to educate that child? It doesn't make sense. It
Now, what?
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I understand that because the other aspect too, most of those households are two-income households, which require both
Right.
parents to be at work. And the reality is, a lot of our folks are they are they can't survive in one job. So many of them are doing
Correct.
multiple jobs. So the plan cannot be just homeschool. I will assume that
Correct.
they're building something else where they're going. Have you guys been in touch with the school board about this?
Well, keep in mind, the school board has its limitations.
Mm-hmm.
It has to follow the laws that are in place, from the higher up,
Okay.
right? So from the higher up, the problem was you have all these migrants, children, students
Mm-hmm.
that can no longer go to school because they're afraid of what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? So parents stop sending their children to school, but they stop sending their children to school doesn't mean that they're educating them at home.
Mm.
Okay? It doesn't mean that they're educating them at home. They stop sending them because they're afraid of what's happening. So the solution, the problem is, them sending them to school and what will happen to them at the school. This is a problem that was created. So what they're saying is that there's not enough students enrolled in school now. Of course there aren't, because there's a problem that you created. There's not enough students enrolled in schools, so they're shutting down the schools. They're shutting down the schools because of the problem. Again, if you didn't create the problem, we wouldn't need a different solution.
Hmm. I'm just gonna do a follow up on this. Um, Before the crisis with deportation and all of that, the schools had the school were full, right? They have enough
Correct.
children. So
Correct.
with the deportation, massive deportation, and we're seeing it all over the news. So all of a sudden, now you guys are seeing there's a decreased amount of kids showing up at the school.
Correct.
So as a result, now you're saying this the school district make the decision now to say, okay, we don't have enough kids in those 3 schools registering, so we need to shut down those schools.
And they already started.
Knowing well there's an other issue at hand. Most of those kids is not showing up because of what's going on with migrant in this country.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear about that for my audience who's going to watch this. Now, knowing all of this, Maggie, what are your top 3 policies priority? Well, I will not say if elected, but when elected.
Okay, number one,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, is education.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very passionate about that. Like I said earlier, all of this that we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
it won't matter without education,
Mm-hmm.
right? Number two is housing, because you need education to
Mm-hmm.
be able to buy a house,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
They all coincide, they all correlate. And then number three, small businesses. Those are the top three for me. Because with small businesses, it helps families to have jobs, to work, and thus be able to supply for their families.
Hmm. Now, realistically, do you think uh, how you gonna find the funds and the money to invest all of this?
The monies are there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they're not there. You have monies that are allocated in different sectors, different area, but it's what takes precedence at this and this time. right? So again, education to me takes precedence. The monies are there. It's not like something that we have to go digging under the ground for. It's there.
Hmm. So the reality is there is money there. It's just the priorities are not are not set right, right?
Well, I can't say set right.
Mm-hmm.
They differ. Because when you look at a book, Johnny,
Mm-hmm.
a book has six different sides,
Mm-hmm.
right? So maybe the side that they looked at that book
Mm-hmm.
from was not the correct side. I'm looking at it from a different side.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. I understand that. Um, Talking about housing, what's your position on property taxes? Because that's one of the big
Well, that's
subject
it.
right now Florida is talking about, and your district is dealing
Right.
with it. So, what's your position on on property taxes?
It has to make sense for the people,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to make sense for the powers that be. So when you talk about property taxes, who does it help? Who does it hurt? We need property taxes. We just don't need so much of it,
Hmm.
right? So when you look at property taxes being increased on an annual basis, who is it benefiting? Is it benefiting the community? Is it benefiting the schools that they're shutting down? Who is it benefiting in reality? So I'm for and against. I'm for it depending on who it's going to benefit. I'm against it depending on who it's against. So when it comes to property taxes, it's something that we have to look at, to see how they're allocating that money. Again, that's funding, part of the funding that we just talked about. The
Mm-hmm.
funding is available,
Yeah.
but pulling so much from the people when you're not increasing the wages is not fair.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the problem. But however, it's been very difficult for residents and all of the district to understand what is going on. I know Tallahassee's talk about it a lot. Um,
Right.
a lot of people seeing it like it's gonna help Florida, but the question you are raising, what are we going to do without those funds? So where else can we find money to invest on the education, to invest on transportation, to invest in different things that we have going on in the city? Where we're going to find the money?
You have grants that are available.
Mm-hmm.
You also have small businesses that can support. You have churches that can support. It's a collaborative effort. We cannot depend on the government to do everything for us
Mm-hmm.
because the reality is, like I said earlier,
Yeah.
I'm not a politician, so I'm going to tell you the truth. The reality is that the government can't do everything. Some things have to come from the community. It has to come from, larger businesses supporting communities.
Mm.
That's where we can get the monies from.
Okay. Now, you we're still in that subject with housing. One of the things that I see a lot, especially in your district, there's a lot of development going on in District 7, right? A lot
Hmm.
of large
Hmm.
scale development. Not only District 7, multiple districts in Central Florida is having large scale development going on. And do you support those large scale development and under what conditions?
I support them under the condition that it doesn't interfere with infrastructure. When you look at, for example, Mercy Drive,
Mm-hmm.
800 trees were pulled from Mercy Drive. So when you pull trees, you're interrupting the infrastructure, right? Thus meaning that you're open for flooding. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how much can you pull without a risk? That has to be studied. Whereas you're building, but you're not interrupting the infrastructure. You're not creating a flood zone. We need houses, we need more buildings, but then again, we have those that are empty that are just sitting there. Why not utilize those first?
Great questions. Great question. Okay. So let's talk about job, Maggie. Um, One of the issue probably also in your district. The reason I keep mentioning probably in your district because it's a new district, right? They used to fall under the different other district. One of the issue is job, and you mentioned that earlier as part of the education piece. So, what is your strategy to bring jobs and economic opportunities to District 7 itself? Because if you look around on that new district, District 7, a lot of people is talking about. jobs and opportunity for them economically. So what are you going to do to help them with that?
Okay, so that's very important because in District 7, I'll take for example Orla Vista.
Mm-hmm.
A small community. I believe they have 3,000 residents there. Orla Vista has no grocery store.
Hmm.
They have to drive all the way to Maitland, to go shopping, which doesn't make sense. Why not create something, build a grocery store in Orla Vista? By building the grocery store in Orla Vista, you create jobs
Mm-hmm.
and you help the community so that they don't have to go so far, and you're reinvesting back into Orla Vista. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you look at job opportunities, it starts, of course, with education. It starts with training. It starts with collaborative partners, small businesses willing to hire, and giving them incentives too, to hire some people, because at this point we also see some businesses that are shutting down because they cannot keep up with the economy. They cannot keep up with the tariffs. They cannot keep up with the gas prices. They cannot keep up with so many things. So you see a lot of small
Hmm.
businesses shutting down. So we want to help, want to offer incentives so that they don't have to shut down again. This comes from small grants, different partner collaborations to make this happen. We can't offer jobs that we don't have, but so we have to create the jobs
Hmm.
so that we can offer them.
Yeah, it's very interesting how you connect the jobs and the small businesses, because one of my questions I have for you, is you already mentioned it, like a lot of small businesses are struggling, and it's due to
Mhm.
inflation, and they have a high operational cost, everything is going up. So what is the strategy, and how would you support them? I know you mentioned grant, but I think a lot of them, small business owners, are watching this feed right now. They want to know some
Mhm.
specific, they want to know, okay, what can you do for them?
Every business is different. Every business have different issues. So it's a matter of looking at that business and see why they're not thriving, right? So there's no one solution for all of them. Each one is different. So if it's a healthcare, see why they're not thriving. If
Mhm.
it's a grocery store, whatever the type of business, see why they're not thriving. Because again, there's no one solution that fits all. It would depend on the business.
Okay. So will your office set up something for to communicate with the small business owners? How do
Definitely.
you evaluate each business needs, and to provide the support they need?
Right. These are meetings, community meetings, inviting these businesses to participate,
Hmm.
right? And they have to participate. They got to come to the meetings because I can't guess what your problem is, Johnny.
Hmm.
Unless you tell me what your problem is, I can't guess. So when we create these meetings and we invite these businesses to come out, we want to hear, from their standpoint, what it is that they're going through, what their struggles are, why they can't hire more people. The things that I mentioned are things that are generalized,
Hmm.
right? As far as gas prices, tariffs, and whatnot, that's generalized. But for that particular business, for that specific business, why aren't they thriving? Do they need to connect with a chamber? Do they need to connect or partner with another business that's doing the same thing? Do we need to strategize, put a strategy
Hmm.
together, so that they can thrive? So again, each business is different. It's a matter of knowing what the need of that particular business is.
Now, you've been in the ground for a long time, and you've been communicating with a lot of those businesses. Can you give us some specific reason, maybe one or two issues some businesses are having, and what's the plan your campaign have to help them thrive?
Right. So I'll be very specific with
Mm-hmm.
one. I'll mention one. She has a nursing business, an agency business.
Mm-hmm.
So her business is not thriving because she's not connected with enough social workers, with enough hospitals to make that happen. So again, that's the healthcare. That's the one for the healthcare. Each business is different. So we have to look to see what it is that's causing them not to thrive.
Hmm. Okay. Um, Earlier, you mentioned something about the trees that have been removed to build bigger businesses, which for me fall under the category of environment. What is your stand on environment protection, especially as development is increasing at as a rapid? I mean, like the
Mhm.
speed you guys are building and downtown is amazing. So, what is your stand on environment protection?
It is so important because I'm gonna sound redundant,
Hmm.
but none of this exists without infrastructure, right? You can beautify the city, you can this, you can that, but when you look at Florida itself, from what I understand, is built on water. Okay, so when you constantly pulling trees, you're bound to have an invasion. So it has to be studied. I think that before we continue building so much, we need to study to see what we're building. Is it whatever it is, right? And I'm not saying not to build, but is it worth it? Is it
Hmm.
worth the cost? When you keep pulling from the ground, are you putting back? Because you got to be able to put back what you're taking out. It
Hmm.
has to make sense, Johnny.
I understand. I understand. You have a background on nursing, and of course, healthcare. It's uh, it's a big issue in America,
Hmm.
especially for your community. What role should the county play in expanding access to healthcare and especially mental health? Because we are seeing it in our community, and we are seeing people losing insurance or premium is too high. They decided not to get insurance at all. So um, I would like to know, what what's your stance on that?
Very good. So when it comes to healthcare, the reason that healthcare keeps going up is because the root of the problem is not being addressed. And I'm speaking from a nursing background.
Mm-hmm.
If you address the root of the problem, then you won't have the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but when you keep putting band-aids on a wound and the wound is deeper than the surface, you're not healing the wound. So healthcare keeps increasing because they're not addressing the root of the problem. The root of the problem is when these people have different issues, address why they have these issues, address the core of the problem, and then bring the solutions. But you're looking at, again, Johnny, I may get myself in trouble for this because I'm not a politician. I'm going to tell you the truth, right? When you look at the healthcare system, it's built to growth. It's built to progress, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not built to collapse, which is great. But what about the people that are affecting that growth? Right? What about the person that has a simple fever that something traditional can help as opposed to shoving pills down their throat, right? What
Yeah.
about that? What about better solutions instead of because it's become one of those businesses where it's at the cost of the people. So I wish that we could look into more traditional medicine, whereas we know what works and we know what doesn't work, instead of just becoming a pharmacy, a human pharmacy, if that makes sense.
Now, I.
So when
Mhm.
it comes to mental health, I believe in not just trying to, bring solutions, whereas you're not addressing the problem. These people really need help. They really need help, and we've seen that a lot of them, Johnny. I know
Mhm.
you've seen a lot of them downtown.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. They're in District 7. They're everywhere. They need help. They need rehab. They don't need to just be in at a facility that's just feeding them and then calling it a day. That's not what they need. They need real solutions. So that's what we need to bring. As far as the cost of healthcare, again, we need to look at different ways, different means of addressing it so that it's not so high, it's not so
Yeah.
expensive to the people.
Now, maybe that question maybe probably was not a fair question because I'm not sure at the county level what can you guys able to do on that instance because
On the
it's
on the county level,
yeah,
there's not much,
yeah.
right? There's not much.
So
So it
maybe the question should be, how can you guys support, you know, those that are affecting with mental health, and what is the county is doing to address the issue, especially if you're looking at a homeless community. You know, a big part of it is because of mental health. So what is the county is
correct.
doing on that issue, and what you're planning to do to support
What I
those
plan
individuals?
what I plan on doing is partnering with different hospitals and different clinics to offer free services, to these individuals. And when I say services, I don't
Hmm.
mean, pushing pills.
Yeah.
I'm talking about real solutions, to help these people to get better. Because every time you see one of those people, Johnny, there's someone's child, there's someone's parent, so we can't just look at them as,
Hmm.
this person is on drugs and or this person is mentally ill. No, that person belongs to someone. Someone birthed that person. That life matters. So until we start looking at from that point, we're not going to care enough to bring a solution.
Hmm. Let's talk a little bit about public safety. There's a very, very thin line between the community and law enforcement. My question for you: what is your approach to public safety, and how do you plan to support law enforcement while addressing the community concerns?
Okay, so but when it comes to law enforcement, we know why there's bad blood between them and the community,
Hmm.
But I want to say that not everyone's the same. Like, you can't blame the entire law enforcement business when it's maybe one or two that are guilty of not following through or not doing their jobs correctly, right? So it's a matter of bringing them together where one understands the other, and we have to hold ourselves accountable too. If we know that we're doing something wrong, stop. You know what I'm saying? If
Hmm.
you know it's wrong, if you know it's illegal, don't do it, because then you're creating a problem, and then you're saying that you're a victim. Don't do it. If you know it's wrong, just don't do it. And as far as the police department, it's them getting to know the community better,
Hmm.
and for them to understand that their job is so important. Without law enforcement,
Hmm.
man, you're looking at lawlessness, right? So as far as me supporting law enforcement, I'm in very strong support, but I also believe that they have to be held accountable when they drop the ball.
Okay. Um, Maggie, I cannot do this interview and not mentioning the immigration issue, because you yourself is, I'm assuming, is a child of an immigrant or an immigrant yourself,
Correct.
and we've seen what's going on in the community. um I understand that sometimes they make it seem like it's a fight against illegal immigrations, but the reality is we see there's an increase of immigrants who are legal that all of a sudden wake up one morning and find themselves being illegal just to be back to be legal temporarily, and then it's a back and forth. And we've seen that Congress is doing, well, at least in Congress right now, we see on the TPS portion, they're doing, at least trying to see what they can do for the 350,000 Haitian migrants, and a lot of them are in Florida, and a great majority of that is in your district as well, if we break it down in sections. So what is your stance with that, and how you going to sit down with the other commissioners to address the pressure that you guys gonna get from Tallahassee and also from Washington D.C. to come with a fair and balanced situation for the migrants that are here in our community?
Wow, that's such a strong question. When it comes to the migrants that are in our community, it's a large population. Daily bread, what we do is we have a group of volunteers.
Hmm.
Just to give you an example, we have a group of volunteers that drop off food boxes to those people, because we don't want them to take the risk,
Hmm.
of leaving their houses. So we bring them the food boxes because people gotta eat, right? People gotta eat. That's a human right. So we do that. As
Hmm.
far as what on a county level, there's not much that can be done. There's
Hmm.
really not much that can be done. We can stand down, we can say we're gonna do things and this and that and the third, but the reality is there's not much that can be done on a county level. It takes the higher ups to make those decisions. What we can do is support, from whatever capacity, like
Hmm.
we are doing at Daily Bread. So I don't want to sit here and lie, saying that we're going to do this, we're going to do that, because we can't. That's the truth. We can't. We have to understand that as a community, whether a Haitian community, Hispanic community, as migrants, as we have to support each other. That's the solution. When it comes to um, county, city, and politicians, and
Hmm.
that and the third, don't count on that. Don't count on that. I can guarantee you that they'll make promises and will not be able to deliver. Again, I'm not a politician, so I am going to tell you the truth. It takes us to help us, right? So the
Hmm.
Hispanic community, they'll support each other like we're doing at Daily Bread, supporting each other. And when I tell you that we take food to migrants' houses,
Hmm.
it's not just a Haitian community.
Hmm.
It's the Hispanic community. It's whatever community. We get the list. We get the requests, Johnny, and
Hmm.
we honor those requests. So it's us helping each other. We're not going to sit here and pretend like we're not
Hmm.
affected by this, because these are our people. This
Yeah.
could have been us. Listen, at any minute, the powers that be could say that, even those that are citizens, depending on how you entered the United States, you're no longer qualified. Or they can say, because you weren't born here, you're no longer qualified. This could be us at any day. But can we support each other? Can we put our heads together? Can we come together and say we will help each other? That's what needs to be done. And that's the truth.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty because I asked you that questions because I have that, being in the community and doing education. A lot of people ask those type of questions, but I think they be asking those questions to the wrong politician that have the wrong seats. And what I mean by that, a lot of things was happening in our community. Sometimes your local politician can't do anything about it. Your city commissioner can't
Right,
do anything about it, and you can even go to your district commissioner can do anything about it. The reality is
right,
this is happening at the federal level, and you have to be
right.
involved not only locally but at the federal level. Now, can your local politician, your local commissioners, can they communicate with the representative that you have on your district to bring the message to Washington, D.C., or to bring the message to Tallahassee? That's the big part. And I wanted to ask that questions because I want my audience to be clear, because sometimes they think, okay, this person going to help me with my situation. But politics in the US is extremely complicated and have different
Mm-hmm,
level. And each level have their own responsibility. And I appreciate your
mm-hmm.
honesty for going above and beyond and trying to answer that questions. Um, you mentioned Daily Bread earlier, and I know Daily Bread been in the community for a while, and I wanted to emphasize that Daily Bread does not is not an organization who just support migrants. Daily Bread support everybody. So, what are you
That's
seeing in the
correct.
ground? What are you seeing in the ground right now with our current situation? Have you seen an increase for food? What are you seeing?
There's definitely an increase for food. Um, and even with our organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do at Daily Bread, beside the truckloads that we get, we also provide our partnering organizations with other side um, contracts
Mm-hmm.
where they can pick up food from local grocery stores, local businesses also, because the increase is immense. It is immense. Now, when you look at what is happening with ICE, for example, the lines are decreasing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're still getting the list, we're still getting the request for food. So the request has increased, even though our lines have decreased. That's what we're seeing. And it's not just, us when we do
Mm-hmm.
distribution for the community here, but the 30 organizations that are under us are experiencing the exact same thing. They get a lot of calls saying, I can't leave my house. And even those, I'm talking about migrants, but let's
Mm-hmm.
go to those that are disabled. Even those that are disabled, I want to implement a system whereas, we can have different businesses deliver to those people that cannot leave their houses. They're handicapped. They can't commute. So we want to provide those services to them.
Okay. Again, I want to emphasize your organization is not an organization who's only catering to the migrant community. You guys are providing service for every every citizen in this community, regardless their
Correct.
background. Okay. Um,
Correct.
you you said you're seeing that line decreases, but that doesn't mean the demand decrease.
Correct.
Okay. So with how you guys manage to help those who are afraid, but at the same time, there's another aspect of my questions. Have you seen an increase at the county level, like in your district that you're going to represent? Have you seen an increase of new faces or new people as
Oh
now
yeah.
need the support that you guys are providing?
Yes, yes. I'll give you an example on our Facebook page.
Hmm.
What we used to do every first and third Wednesday, we do distributions, and we have, families that are
Hmm.
registered for those distributions, and it doesn't stop. Can you accept new people? Can you accept new people? So we have to open the door to accept new people. So new faces are constantly coming. It doesn't stop, Johnny.
Hmm.
It doesn't stop.
So has a let's say what Commissioner Maggie can do to support to support the community in that instance. I'm not talking about
The
the
support.
I'm not talking about the community service Maggie. I'm talking about the commissioner Maggie. So how is that going to help the
I'm
community?
so glad. I'm so glad you asked that question because that's so important. There's something that they call grassroots organizations,
Mm-hmm.
right? And these grassroots organizations, they don't get fundings, they don't get grants, they don't get anything.
Hmm.
Daily Bread, as many years as we've been in business, we don't get funding.
Why?
Everything that we do, I'm going to explain.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that we do is out of pocket. Okay? So when you look at the 30 organizations that we service, for example, they don't get fundings because the system is set up so that it's those with the big names that has the big people standing behind them, the big titles
Mm.
standing behind them. You're looking at, it becomes like personal,
Hmm.
even though it's not personal.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? When a lot of these grassroots organizations, Johnny, especially the ones, I can speak for the ones that are under us, they're doing the work.
Hmm.
They're doing the work. So, as Commissioner Maggie, I want to help them to increase, by providing some fundings to them so that we can increase the amount of food that they're getting and help more people. And there's another thing there are certain organizations, and I won't call out names
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not trying to build enemies. I'm a peaceful person,
Mm-hmm.
but there are certain organizations. If this church, they have churches and other
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits under them. If this church is within 500 feet or a mile of another church, they won't get it if that church is already getting from them. So if church A
Mm-hmm.
receives from that organization and church B, who is a mile
Mm-hmm.
away from church A,
Mm-hmm.
they cannot receive from that organization because they say they're too close. They're too close, but you
Wow.
have hungry people. You see
Wow.
what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
those organizations are the ones that are being funded. I want to change that.
Hmm.
It's not fair.
Hmm. Well, Maggie, how would you measure success in your first year as a if you elected? Well, when elected, how would you measure success? What would you say? Okay, I'm successful in doing what I promised to do.
Testimonials. That's how I would measure success through testimonials. I want to be the commissioner, Johnny,
Hmm.
that doesn't just say they're gonna do something, but actually does it. and have the people actually say, well, this is one that actually came through. I am not making no vain promises that I cannot deliver.
Hmm.
I want to be the one that stands out. I want to be the one that they talk about for years to come, the one that made the difference.
Hmm.
That's how I measure success.
Okay. Now, Maggie, the reality is there's about 15 candidates running for that seat. I know the last time I
Mhm.
checked. Why should a voter trust you, and why should they elect you, and what make you uniquely qualified for this seat?
Why should they choose me? They should choose me because I've been doing the work. They know me. They know the work that I do. If they have not benefited from us, a family member or someone that they know have, they know that we're not just talking, we're about working. Whether they volunteered here or had family members volunteer here, whatever it is, in whatever capacity, they know that we are about the work. We are about the community. Why should they vote for me? Because I won't let them down. If I win, and I say it with all my heart, we win. It's not just me. We, District 7, win. Another thing that I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
my goal is every year to start at least 12, to help at least 12 young people to have their own businesses from my earnings, not from the county's earnings, but from my earnings, because I want them to be independent. And if I can help one today, that one can help another one today, and another one, and another one, and so on and so forth. So every year, I want to help at least 12 young people start their own businesses. That's why they should vote for me.
Okay. Well, how do they reach out to you, Maggie? For those who's looking to get more information and to donate or to volunteer with your campaign.
Yes, they can call us at 407-285-1108. Again, that's 407-285-1108. We're at 2532 B Silver Star Road, Orlando, Florida 32804. We're right at the corner of John Young and Silver Star, next to the Wawa gas station. We are reachable. If you call us, we don't pick up, you can text us because even if we miss a call, we won't miss a text. So reach out to us, volunteer, help in whatever capacity that you feel that you're called to, because we're not going to let you down.
So I bring your
So
website on the screen, Maggie. Is this the correct website for voters to go to get to know you?
vote for Maggie. Yes,
Okay. So on this website, what will they be able to do? Is this where they find? Oh, okay. I see different buttons there. They'll be able to volunteer. They'll be able to donate. And they'll be able to
correct,
contact you. And I see the phone number there as well. Okay.
correct, correct.
Okay. Maggie, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate you take the time to sit down and talk to my audience. And I wish you luck in District 7. And I'm sure a lot of people in District 7 going to watch this program. And I'm sure they're gonna have a lot of questions. And you left your contact information for them to contact you. But before we leave, I don't know if you have a last message for the community that you're about to represent.
Yes, I do. I want to encourage the community to go out and vote because every time you don't vote, you vote the wrong way. There's no such thing as no voting. Every time you don't vote, you vote the wrong way. I want to be the one that sits in the room that helps my community. When decisions are being made, I want to be there to make the right decisions for you. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what your concerns are, even more than what I've been hearing from our weekly distributions. I want to know what you want to see, what changes to you want us to make in this community. I want to know, what your concerns are. How can we help make your community better, our community better? Because I live here too. So I encourage you to vote. I encourage you to support. I encourage you to get involved, to find out what is happening in your community because social media is not going to tell you everything. Attending these meetings, community meetings, town halls, and whatnot, these are important so that you can be well informed, so that when you go to vote, you know who you're voting for, what you're voting for, and why it's important to vote.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your time and I wish you luck.
Thank you.
Good.